Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to dive into the third part of our How to Make Cold Process Soap video series. Today we'll just be going over the basic equipment that you need to make cold process soap. So that's something that you can look into and purchase if this is something that you're interested in. My name is Darlene. I am the owner and creator of Body Haven Soaps. If you are a previous subscriber to this channel, thank you for your support and welcome back. If you're new to this channel and this is something that interests you, hit that subscribe button so you're not missing future videos and to help support my channel. Alright, so let's get into it. So on the table here I have a whole whack load of equipment. Now we're going to go over just the basics of what you need today. If you're very new into the profession, you may not want to go out and buy all of this equipment and spend a fortune until it's something that you realize that you like. I have a lot of equipment, but I've been doing this for years and it's something that you accumulate over time. So let's take a look. So very first thing that you're going to need in the cold process soap equipment, you're going to need a scale of one kind or another. Just a basic kitchen scale like this is going to be all that you need to run your first few batches. So this is what we're going to use in these videos. Alright, so you're going to need that scale to be able to measure out your oils, your water, your lye. Just make sure that it has ounces, grams on it, and that's about all that you need. Okay, so you need that scale. You're also going to need a heat thermometer. So when we do make cold process soap, we tend to like to have that soap batter or the oil, sorry, and the lye within 10 degrees of each other. So this is pretty handy to make sure that we're in that 10 degrees. It just slows down the speed. We like to soap at around 100 degrees. I soap at room temperature, so I mix all of my oils and melt everything down and mix my lye and stuff the next day, the night before. And I allow those to cool down and I soap at room temperature. So, but this is a handy tool to have. You're also going to need some spatulas. Spatulas are must-haves. You need to be able to stir and scrape stuff. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, just some spatulas. We use a lot of spatulas. I probably have 50 of them myself. You may need a whisk. So I have a number of these as well, but we need a whisk. You're also going to need something to mix the oils and lye together. I use this handy container here. Now you don't have to have a container of this size and velocity. If you're just starting out, you can simply go to the dollar store and pick up a container like this to mix your first batch of soap in. You get this at the dollar store for a couple bucks. Okay, you're going to need something to measure your lye and your distilled water out with. So I will use a container to measure my dry lye, okay, into a glass dish, dry lime into the glass dish, or you can use a plastic container or something stainless steel. Don't put lye in anything that is aluminum or anything like that. So I tend to use the glass myself for the dry lye, okay, and I'll weigh that out. You're also going to need something that you measure your distilled water out in. I have this container here that I use, and I weigh my distilled water into this, and then I will mix my lye into this and I allow it to cool in this. One thing to keep in mind when you're finding a container to mix your lye in, you want to make sure that you have a container that is heat proof, that is actually going to be safe to use with lye, that's not going to break that down or shatter or create toxins. So the only metal that you can use is stainless steel, which is quite pricey. This is an example of a stainless steel container. This is obviously not big enough to mix my lye in. I actually use this for my fragrance oils. I don't have a big one I mix lye in. I use a plastic, okay? You can mix lye in, say, a heat-safe glass plexi. I don't suggest using glass for the simple reason as the more times you mix lye in here, it will start to etch and break down the glass. Creating those etch marks creates weak spots in the glass, and this can shatter when you put that lye in. It gets to a hot temperature. So I would not use glass. And you can use plastics. The only thing you need to remember with the plastics is that on the bottom, the recycle symbol here, it has to be a 5 or a 2. You can't use any of the other plastics. The lye will break that plastic down. It has to have the recycle symbol of a 5 or a 2 on the bottom. So remember that. And as I said, this is what I mix and then cool my lye in. You can see that I have wrote on it to make sure that nobody messes with this. So it is labeled, do not touch, okay? Because that is a corrosive substance. So that's what I mix my lye in. You're also going to need something to pour our soap in. So a mold like this would be suffice. You can make a mold out of, the side of a milk carton would work as well because it's got that wax lining in it. But we're going to have a video on molds and the different things that you can use at a later date. For right now, this is an example of a mold. The recipe that we did in the last video is a 2-pound recipe. This is a 2-pound mold, and this will be the one that I use in the future video. Okay. You're going to need something to stir your lye, so use something that is non-reactive. So a stainless steel spoon is what I use to stir and dissolve that lye. Okay, so make sure that it is stainless steel though. Okay, you can use other stuff that's not metal, but if you are using metal, make sure it is the stainless steel. Okay, you're going to need a pair of gloves because you have to be wearing gloves when you're working with this. This is a corrosive lye that you're going to pour into that oil, and until that lye is all used up from the oils, that batter is still going to be corrosive. So you want to make sure that you protect yourself with gloves. You're going to have a long sleeve shirt. You're going to have your eye protection, which we'll go over more of this in our lye safety. You may want to be wearing a mask to protect you from fumes. When you initially mix the lye and the distilled water together, it does release a gas. Okay, and we'll talk about that more when we get into the lye safety as well as ventilation. Okay, you're going to have something that you measure your fragrance oils out in if that's what you're going to use. I have these little containers here. My fragrance oils I usually measure into something like this. These little containers here I use for mixing up my colors or my titanium dioxide or small amounts of additives. When I'm weighing them out, they work pretty handy. When you're measuring out your fragrances, please remember once again, those fragrances will break down plastics. So you want to make sure that you're using something that has that 5 or that 2 on it so it doesn't start to deteriorate the plastic. And if you ever measure into a plastic, like probably every soap maker has, that isn't of that standard, you will see what happens. It starts to break down and melt that plastic on the inside. Okay, so make sure you're using something that's safe to measure those things into. Okay, you're also going to need a stick blender. Now you could essentially whisk your batter to emulsification and get that trace that you're looking for, but that's going to take a long time. So your basic Immersion Blender is what you're going to look for. This one I've had for a number of years. I got it off Amazon for 30 bucks. You can get one from Walmart. Just make sure that this is actually stainless steel. As I mentioned before, you can't use other metals, but it has to be stainless steel or plastic. It cannot be aluminum or any of that other stuff. I suggest getting one that breaks apart like this one. It just simply clicks together, but once I'm done using it, I can just take this and wash this part and just clean and sanitize this part instead of having that whole device that I have to take to the sink and wash and everything. So, but you're going to want an Immersion Blender, okay? So you're going to have those things. All right, so that is your basic equipment. That's it. That is what you need to make cold process soap. You can use, as I'll show you here, I actually have this double pot boiler system that I've made up. So in my soap room, I have a heat element. I have a pot with a little bit of water, and this is what I will measure my solid butters and oils into to melt down prior to mixing it with the soft one, liquid oils. I don't use the microwave, however, you can. So you can just measure your ingredients into a bowl that's microwave safe, melt down your butters in the microwave, and mix them with your liquid oils. That is perfectly fine. I do it this way just because I want to control the temperature and make sure that I don't get it so hot that it starts to break down the properties of the oils I'm adding to my soap. But this is not a necessity to have, as long as you can have a microwave safe container that you can melt your oils down in the microwave will work as well. Okay, and then of course you'll need your ingredients, so the oils, whether that be solid, liquid that you're going to be using. Olive oil, a good place to get that is Costco, especially if you're just starting out, you're not going to buy large quantities. Lye you can get from most soap suppliers. Okay, you can also get it from your hardware stores and stuff. Just make sure it says 100% lye on it, that it does not have any fillers in it. I purchase all of my lye in a big huge box that I put into 5-gallon pails from Voyager soap, but I use a lot of it, so that's the reason I do it. You won't need that much starting out, but a soap supply company would be a good place to get it from. You're also going to need butters, such as your coconut butter or oil, which you can get in Walmart for that matter. If you've decided to go with sweet almond oil, cocoa butter, whatever you've decided to put into your recipe that you've put through that calculator. In the recipe we do at the end of this series, we will use olive oil, coconut oil, we will use palm oil, and we will use our castor oil. So those are the ingredients that we will use then if you are looking to follow along. If not, feel free to design your own recipe as we go through this. All right, now you can make a bar that is completely scent-free, all natural, no colorants or anything in it. But if you're looking to make that fragrance, once again, you're going to have to purchase the proper fragrances. I get my fragrances from Voyager Soap, Windy Points, Nature's Garden, multiple different places. But make sure it's a reputable place that actually tells you, breaks down the percentage of usage suggested for soap, that it is one that gives you the turnout of it. As Voyager Soap on their website, I can go there, I can look at this fragrance, and it tells me what their testing does, what the recommended uses are by the manufacturer, all of that information. The ones that I buy from Windy Point, it has it right on the container, what the recommended use is, what the acceleration or non-accelerating, discoloring, all of that information is right on the label, but also on their website. You're also going to need colorants if you want to add colors. Now you can use a natural color like beetroot powder or clays, or you can order and get mica colorants. There's multiple different colorants out there which we'll go over, that you will need to purchase as well if you're looking to add color. Okay, so that is the basics of what we need to make cold process soap. I will have a list in the description box below stating what it is that we went through today, the basics. I may put some links in there. Now, I'm not affiliated with anybody, so it's not, I don't make money off of putting affiliate links in there or anything, but maybe provide some information there for you, okay? And that's kind of what you need. So take a look. I mean, you may have some of this stuff in your home that you don't need to go out and purchase. Just remember that you are going to use this with a caustic substance. Generally what I use in my soap room, I don't put it back in my kitchen if I took it from my kitchen. But if you're going to do it once and you decide, soap making is not really for me, then fair enough. Okay, just make sure you clean it really well, that type of stuff. All right, so that's today's video. Tomorrow we will go over lye safety and go through the mixing lye. Okay, thanks for watching.